Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and also welcome to the second episode of this new podcast I have started. I have not decided on a name for the podcast, but I'm sure it'll come to me in the coming days after I do this podcast over and over again. I've been having a lot of fun recording, even though I've done only one recording of this so far. I am having a lot of fun recording this, and I hope the people that are watching this are having a good time listening to what I have to say. So, for the October 5th edition of today's podcast, we're going to be talking about the MLB playoffs, and I will be giving my predictions on some of these matchups that we're going to see. And then I will be talking about the NBA preseason, some of the results of the games that we have seen so far, and I will talk about some expectations that I am looking to see from these teams going into the regular season. And then to get away from sports, I'm going to end up be talking about the Mario movie. The Mario movie ended up getting a big trailer poster posted on Nintendo. So the poster that I seen looked amazing. It looked great, and they also announced a Nintendo Direct. So in the next coming days, I'll talk about it again. But I guess I will go ahead and talk about what I expect to see in that movie and what I am expecting to get from that cast of characters. As we all know, it's definitely a wacky bunch. And then to end off today with one of the only segments that I've integrated into this podcast so far, we will be talking about something trending on Twitter. Hopefully Twitter has something interesting to talk about. Okay, I guess we can get into the MLB postseason, and we could go ahead and let's talk about the NL first, since the NL has a lot more possibilities considering that the AL is pretty much set, but the last couple wildcard spots in the NL are up for grabs for mostly seeding. The teams are pretty much set as to what I know for right now. So for the first game, as of right now on October 5th, we will see the Philadelphia Phillies versus the St. Louis Cardinals. Now that's an interesting series, just because of how well the Phillies have been playing as of recently. They really fought against the Brewers to win their wild card spot, but obviously earlier in the season they had their struggles, especially with their pitching and their bullpen. But I know as of recent, Jose Alvarado in that bullpen has really come to shine, and I also think I recall seeing him winning reliever of the month in the NL. I could be wrong about that. It might have been Camilo Doval. I might be pronouncing that name wrong, but it's alright. But I do know for sure that Jose Alvarado has been having a very good month of September, so hopefully he could transfer that into the postseason. My prediction for this matchup is going to wind up being the St. Louis Cardinals. I think they have a lot of offensive weapons that could really take advantage of their weak pitching, and I just don't think the Phillies are going to be able to outscore the Cardinals. I also think the Cardinals are going to be able to outpitch the Phillies. Adam Wainwright has looked pretty decent in his last season, his age 42, 43. I don't know how old he is exactly, but he's definitely up there in age. I can't remember if Jack Flaherty's on that team right now. I don't know if he's injured, but he's always someone good to have in that rotation. And yeah, I definitely think that the Cardinals just have more pieces than the Phillies right now. So my prediction for that matchup is going to be the St. Louis Cardinals. And then in our next matchup, we got the San Diego Padres playing the New York Mets. Now, as a Mets fan, this does kill me to see them playing in the wild card. I definitely would have rather liked to see them play in that division champion spot and have that number 2 seed and not play in the wild card, definitely to save some arms. But I digress. As a Mets fan, you gotta believe, and I definitely believe in our team. But that being said, logically, I don't see how we're going to beat the Padres. I know that might sound crazy to say. The Mets have had an outstanding year. They've won 100 games. They've gone on to break multiple records. Francisco Lindor has been great this season. Pete Alonso has had an MVP-type season. In the offseason, we went out and got Max Scherzer. We ended up getting Chris Bassett. A lot of arms to throw at these other teams. But during the regular season, I've noticed that the Mets tend to struggle against the Padres, and for one sole reason, and more or less rather than one person, that being Yu Darvish. For some reason, the Mets seem that they can't hit off Yu Darvish as well, and I definitely think that the Mets are definitely a better pitching team than they are an offensive team right now. They definitely do have the bats to have offensive explosions and definitely have the bats to win them games, but their pitching is definitely what wins them the most. As a Mets fan, I have to say the Mets are going to beat the Padres, but I could definitely see them losing to the Padres also. So then that would bring us to, how about we talk about who the Mets would be playing if they beat the Padres? We would end up playing the Dodgers, which is also why I really wanted to have that division spot, that number 2 seed, because then we would have either had to play the Cardinals or the Phillies or the Padres. But as of right now, we would have had to play the Cardinals or the Phillies, and I definitely would rather play those teams rather than the Dodgers and the Padres. Definitely the 2 scarier teams in that postseason bracket. As a Mets fan, I would love to say the Mets are going to advance, but the Dodgers are the best team in baseball as of right now. They just eclipsed over 110 wins. I don't really see them slowing down. That offense that they have is amazing. They have Mookie Betts. Gavin Lux has had a really great breakout season. He's been their starting second baseman. Will Smith is obviously great. Freddie Freeman hits for a great average. Those guys are pretty much the key contributors on offense. And then obviously they have Tony Gonsolin, pretty good bullpen. They're definitely the all-around package. So my prediction for that matchup would unfortunately have to be the Dodgers and to end my Mets postseason. And let's talk about the other championship game, which would be between the Atlanta Braves and the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, this is an interesting matchup just because of how well the Cardinals have been playing as of recently, but the Braves have been on a tear. The Braves have been amazing. I've been watching them as of recently just to make sure they actually do win the division, and actually, as a Mets fan, for the past 2 to 3 weeks, I've been scouting their team just as much as anybody else's. But that offense that they have is insane. Austin Riley's been great all year. But as of right now, Matt Olson and Dansby Swanson are really hitting their stride right now. Dansby Swanson in his contract year is definitely showing why the Braves should pay him, especially with Atlanta giving out free extensions to all these young players like it's candy. Dansby Swanson is definitely showing the Braves right now, hey, I am worth that contract extension. You should sign me to be your starting shortstop for the next 10 to 12 years. So I think my pick is obvious. I think my pick would have to be the Atlanta Braves. I just don't really see the Cardinals offense outscoring the Braves offense. I also do think they have a slight edge in the pitching department compared to St. Louis. The Braves having Spencer Strider, Charlie Morton, Kyle Wright has had a really good year. I can't really think of anybody else in that starting rotation, but those 3 guys alone are definitely really good, and especially in a postseason where it is normal to only pitch 4 starters and have your 5th starter come out of the bullpen. I definitely see the Atlanta Braves beating the St. Louis Cardinals in this one. And for my NLCS championship game, I have the Dodgers versus the Atlanta Braves, which would be the same as last year, and would ultimately end up being the tiebreaker between those 2 teams because in the past 2 years, I believe they've played, if not in the NLCS, they've played in the postseason twice against each other, with the Dodgers winning the first time and the Atlanta Braves winning the second time, obviously, both teams ending up winning a World Series. And I don't think I don't think anything's going to change from last year. I think that the Atlanta Braves have been playing really, really well, while the Dodgers have been playing just as well. For some reason, I don't know if they could play as well as they can in the postseason. I've seen in the past couple years, obviously besides the year they won the World Series, that they tend to break under pressure. They tend to break under pressure, and I think that's going to wind up killing them. I think that they are going to get overwhelmed by Atlanta's pitching staff, which I do think is better than the Dodgers right now. Excuse me. And I have the Atlanta Braves going into the World Series for 2022. So now let's get into our AL predictions. Oh, I'm looking at the time on the video. I might have to do this a little quick. For the Tampa Bay Rays and Cleveland Guardians, to be quite honest, I haven't really paid attention to either of these teams. If I just had to go off of what I know that the Tampa Bay Rays have been a very, very good franchise the past couple years, have even made it to the World Series recently, and I would be pretty shocked to see them actually lose to the Guardians here, especially in a Guardians division where the division is very weak, where their only competition in that division seems to be between the Minnesota Twins and the Chicago White Sox, which are both teams that finished with under 80 to 85 wins. So I definitely see the Tampa Bay Rays ending up facing the Yankees in that next round. In our next matchup, we end up having the Seattle Mariners versing the Toronto Blue Jays. Now this is an interesting one because this is the first time that the Seattle Mariners have been in the playoffs for the past 22 years. So it would definitely be nice to see an upset here, to see them beat the Toronto Blue Jays, and I think that's what I'm going to predict. I think we are going to see the Seattle Mariners end up beating the Toronto Blue Jays. I just think that the Seattle offense as of right now is on fire as of right now, compared to the Blue Jays offense, which has shown to be very productive in certain times of the year. I just feel there are many guys in that offense that are not very consistent. Vlad Guerrero definitely has not been as consistent as this year as he was last year, where he almost won the Triple Crown. Bo Bichette has shown that he could be a very, very good offensive shortstop, but has also shown that he cannot be a very consistent offensive shortstop. And obviously they've lost Marcus Semien to the Texas Rangers in the past year in the off season, and I just think that this is definitely just a year where they need to get better. Obviously, a postseason spot is great compared to last year where they didn't get a postseason spot. So definitely nice to see them back in the postseason also. But I do have the Seattle Mariners end up beating the Toronto Blue Jays. And I guess we should talk about the Seattle Mariners versus the Houston Astros in the next round, because that is what will happen. I definitely don't think this is a surprising pick, but I definitely have the Houston Astros beating the Seattle Mariners. The Seattle Mariners are a really fun team, really cool team. They went out this postseason, this offseason, and they got Robbie Ray. They went and traded one of their big prospects, being Noelvi Marte, and also acquiring Luis Castillo, which has been an amazing move for them. Luis Castillo has been nothing but spectacular for that team and has also helped them push towards the playoffs. But the Houston Astros are the Houston Astros. They're probably one of the best baseball franchises in the MLB right now. They have a great farm system. It seems like they have an amazing amount of depth. They have star power within Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, Jeremy Pena at the beginning of the season. As a rookie, has shown that he could be a very, very good shortstop that could really fill Carlos Correa's shoes. Kyle Tucker, obviously. They went and got Trey Mancini and Christian Vazquez at the trade deadline. And I definitely do think that the Houston Astros should win that game. And I guess we should talk about the next series, which would be the Tampa Bay Rays versus the New York Yankees. Now, the New York Yankees are an interesting team because obviously we've seen them within the first couple months of the season go in and win games in a historic fashion, a dominant fashion, and we have seen them eclipse wins and wins and wins faster than anybody else. I believe they were the first team to hit 60, 70, 80, 90, probably not 90, maybe 50, 60, and 70, maybe 80 wins for the season. But obviously, as we know, toward the end of the season, they seem to slump a little bit. I do think that slump definitely takes in part some of the injuries that they have sustained. Like Giancarlo Stanton was injured a bunch this year. A lot of their starting rotation was injured. I believe Luis Severino was injured at some point. Nestor Cortez was on limited innings thrown. Clay Holmes, I believe, was injured. So yeah, definitely a lot of bullpen and starting rotation arms that were injured that should not be injured. Oh, and also Anthony Rizzo, their starting first baseman, definitely a very big part of that lineup. And I might be called crazy here, but for some reason I feel like whenever the Tampa Bay Rays play the New York Yankees, the Tampa Bay Rays always have New York's number. I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's if they steal signs or something like that. But for some reason, it always seems like the Tampa Bay Rays get over the New York Yankees. And I guess that's going to be my pick. I guess I'm going to have to say the Tampa Bay Rays are going to win their series over the New York Yankees. I guess that's my big upset for the postseason. And in the ALCS, we would have the Seattle, or not the Seattle Mariners, we would have the Houston Astros versus the Tampa Bay Rays. And definitely a no-brainer. The Houston Astros should win that series. The Houston Astros are definitely, if not the second best team in baseball behind the Dodgers. And the Houston Astros are just definitely the best team in the AL right now. And then that would bring us to our World Series, which would end up being a repeat of last year, which would end up being the Houston Astros and the Atlanta Braves. I do see this matchup ending differently, though. I do see the Houston Astros beating the Atlanta Braves in the World Series. I can't tell you why. It's just a hunch. It's a gut feeling. But I feel like the Houston Astros have seen what they need to do in order to beat the Atlanta Braves, and I feel like there are a lot of new faces on the Atlanta Braves that don't really know what they're in store to face off against. Like Spencer Strider wasn't on that team last year. Matt Olson wasn't on that team last year. This is probably other people I'm not thinking about. Michael Harris wasn't on that team, and they're also missing a bunch of people from that last team, like Jorge Soler, Adam Duvall, I'm pretty sure is injured or got traded. I can't remember, and I don't know, but I just feel like it's a completely different team, while the Houston Astros haven't really changed at all. The only thing that seems like that has really changed is that they've gotten rid of Carlos Correa. But it seems like that's worked out for them in the long run with Jeremy Pena playing there now. So, yeah, that's definitely going to be my pick. I got the Houston Astros. Definitely going to be an interesting series. I would probably say the Houston Astros win that series in 6 games. And that's how I see the MLB season ending, with the Houston Astros winning the championship. Please let me know what you think down below. If you thought any of my predictions were bad, let me know. If you thought there was something that you agreed with, let me know. If you think I'm dumb and don't know what I'm talking about in baseball, let me know. But yeah, those are my those are my MLB predictions. Now, we can go on to the NBA preseason. And I guess we could talk about the Japan game first between the Warriors and the Wizards. all around good game from the Warriors. James Wiseman looks like a monster. Let me see if I can get some better stats. Yeah, nobody besides James Wiseman really popped off for this team. I'm glad to see him getting a lot of playing time, especially considering last year he was injured and playing in the G League. It seems like they're going to be, he's going to be the Golden State Warriors' new big man, while before it was they were switching between Jonathan Kuminga and Kevon Looney. Hopefully, James Wiseman can end up taking Kevon Looney's spot, and Kevon Looney can end up being the bench center. But yeah, all around good game from the Warriors. And nothing, I didn't see anything bad from the Wizards. Obviously, you want to see your main guys like Bradley Beal and Kristaps Porzingis put up more points, with Kristaps only putting up 7 and Bradley Beal only putting up 9 points. But your young guys like Rui Hachimura and Kyle Kuzma ended up getting a lot of playing time, and it ended up doing well for them. Rui Hachimura ended up getting 13 points and 9 rebounds, playing for only 25 minutes. And Kyle Kuzma, while only having 7 points, 1 assist, and 4 rebounds, ended up getting a really, really, really good dunk. And I can't remember who he dunked over. I can't remember if it was Draymond Green. I can't remember if it was James Wiseman. It was somebody, though, and it looked amazing. So yeah, the Wizards and the Warriors played. The Grizzlies and the Bucks played in a pretty close game, with the Grizzlies coming out on top 107-102. And it seems like they didn't really play a lot of their starters. They ended up playing Zaire Williams, Kennedy Chandler, Brandon Clark, John Conclair, and Santi Aldama. Yeah, I've never heard of most of these guys. Besides Brandon Clark, I'm pretty sure he is the bench center for that team. But a lot of these guys ended up doing really good, which is definitely good for the Memphis Grizzlies, which definitely shows that the Memphis Grizzlies have a lot of depth on that team, where you don't really have to rely on Steven Adams, Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, all these other guys, you know? So, definitely a good win for them. The Bucks, on the other hand, they played a couple more of their starters. They played Jrue Holiday, Grayson Allen, Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis. Definitely 4 guys who are not starting are definitely big pieces off the bench, like Bobby Portis and Grayson Allen. But, yeah, I mean, nobody played particularly bad. The person that they started at forward, Jordan Nwora, however you pronounce that name, excuse me, ended up playing for 28 minutes, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 21 points. So maybe he ends up slotting in at that power forward or small forward, and you end up playing Giannis at power forward and having Brook Lopez play the 5, or have Giannis play the 5 and have Brook Lopez play the 4. You know, it's whatever. That lineup is very, very versatile. They'll figure it out. Our next game we have is the Celtics and the Hornets. The Hornets ended up losing to the Boston Celtics 134-93. Definitely a tough loss, but it's only the preseason. Definitely not anything to write home about. I will say though, the Charlotte Hornets did end up playing most of their starters, with being Terry Rozier, LaMelo Ball, Mason Plumlee, Kelly Oubre, and PJ Washington. Definitely interesting to see how that lineup plays without Miles Bridges this year, because I know that was a big passing target for LaMelo Ball, so maybe we'll see LaMelo Ball handle the ball more, score more. Might be a good fantasy pickup for fantasy basketball. You never know. I guess a big player on that team that got some minutes in that game was LiAngelo Ball. Obviously, he's been trying to get onto an NBA team for the past couple years, and it seems like he finally got a chance with the Hornets. He ended up only playing 4 minutes and recording 1 rebound, but it's preseason. He'll probably get more time later. The Boston Celtics ended up playing Al Horford, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Derek White. So most of their starters. Definitely a game they should have won, and they did win by a lot. Jaylen Brown ended up dropping 24, 5 and 1. He's definitely the player of the game. Yeah, I got nothing else to say. The Celtics seem like they should be doing very well for themselves, especially after signing Blake Griffin, who should be a nice power forward, small forward off that bench for them. And for the last game we could talk about my New York Knicks facing the Detroit Pistons, with the New York Knicks ended up winning 117-96. Bing bong. Do you guys remember that TikTok trend? Jesus Christ. Yeah, the Pistons ended up playing Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, Isaiah Stewart, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Sadiq Bey. I definitely like their core. I definitely like the team that they're running. I think they are definitely trying to fight for that play-in spot, that 10, that 9 seed. I think this lineup is definitely a lineup that could end up winning that 10th or 9th spot, but they definitely need to get more depth on that team. The only people that I know on this team that could be helpful off the bench is probably Marvin Bagley, because I don't really know any of these other people. Killian Hayes, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they could end up starting Marvin Bagley and putting someone like Sadiq Bey on the bench and being a super six man. I don't know. Definitely something they should think about. But I could definitely see them doing well in the regular season. And the New York Knicks ended up starting Evan Fournier, Jalen Brunson, Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle, and RJ Barrett, which definitely seems like that's going to be the starting five for this season, and definitely a better starting five. Definitely a better starting five than they had last year, especially since they have guys on the bench being named Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickley, Cam Reddish, Derrick Rose. Definitely a bunch of good players to have on the bench that could come on. Yeah, pretty good game. Player of the game from the New York Knicks is definitely RJ Barrett, dropping 21, 5 and 2 in 23 minutes. And yeah, pretty good first preseason game from my New York Knicks. Okay, and that's all I would like to talk about in basketball. I guess we could talk about the Mario movie now. The Mario movie seems like... I did not know the movie was going to be animated by Illumination, the same movie company that has ended up making movies such as Minions, the new Grinch movie, things like that. I thought they were going to end up really putting their own style on Mario and the characters in the kingdom itself, but it seems like Nintendo actually went out of their way to... I wouldn't say they went out of their way to make sure they got what they want. I guess I would say it seems like they were very involved in the creative process of how everything was drawn and how everything was presented. Because from the pictures that I've seen, it looks like a regular Mario game. It looks like it's going to be like the next 3D open world Mario game. I will definitely be very interested to see how some of these characters are voiced, which is one thing I hope that we see and hear in the Nintendo Direct. I would love to hear how Chris Pratt plays Mario. Here, let me just jog my memory and see who else is playing who. Anna Taylor-Joy should sound great as Princess Peach. Charlie Day as Luigi should be interesting. Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong is awesome. That should be really fun. I mean, at the beginning, when they announced these characters and these actors playing these characters, I really thought they were going to make this movie live action, and I think it definitely would have been very funny to see some of these people in live action. Jack Black is going to be playing Bowser. Definitely a great choice in my opinion. I feel like Jack Black is definitely going to be the star of this movie. And Keegan-Michael Key as Toad from Key and Peele. So that should... It almost seems like Toad in this movie is going to be used as like comedic relief, which is fine. It's a kids movie, so it's whatever. It's not that big of a deal. Not that I don't like it or anything. I guess I just have to see how they execute the character, I guess. I would love to get a plot for the movie. I would love to get I would love to see some scenes from the movie if they have them done, and probably a release date, because I don't think we have a release date. I think the last release date that I've seen was April 7th, 2023, but obviously those things are subject to change, so I guess we'll see. And yeah, I guess we could talk about the movie more when the Nintendo Direct comes out on Thursday. And for our next segment, I guess we could talk about my top 5 Nintendo games. Number 5, I am going to have to end up picking... That's a hard one. This might be from recency bias, but the new Kirby game, Kirby Return to Dreamland, I thought was amazing. There are great mini-games, the levels and the level design is amazing, the bosses are really fun to fight, definitely has great replay value, and I remember getting the game for the first time and playing it, and having a pretty good time, so I would put that at 5. At number 4... This might be cheating, but I'm going to be putting the Mario Party franchise at number 4, just because of how poorly it's been treated in the past couple years. Definitely with the last release of the Mario Party Superstars. I think it's Mario Party Superstars. Definitely has revived the series a little bit, but I don't know. I definitely can't forget what has happened over the past couple years with all with the 3D games and the last Switch Mario Party not being so good, and Mario Party 9 and 10 kind of integrating this new system where they have everybody sit on a car and everybody rolls the dice. It's collect star bits instead of stars. Definitely not my cup of tea. And at number 3, maybe a little bit controversial, but I'm going to put Mario 64. Paved the way for all open world games, and I definitely think it's a great game, and definitely one of my favorites, and I would just put it at 3. Number 2, I'm going to be putting the Breath of the Wild from the Legend of Zelda series. Definitely my favorite game out of the series. I don't think I need to talk about it. I think everybody knows how good that game is. And at number 1, I'm going to be putting Super Mario Odyssey. Definitely my favorite open world Mario game. Just love how much there is to do in the game. Point blank. I think I've said everything I had to say about it. And I guess we should just go on Twitter and see what is trending. Apparently Odell Beckham is trending. Let's see why. It seems like a lot of different teams are actually going out of their way to try to sign Odell Beckham. That's for a different video. I guess we could end the podcast here, because I don't really want to talk about that. Maybe we could talk about it tomorrow. Yeah, maybe we could talk about it tomorrow. Okay, well, I guess that was a pretty good second episode for the podcast. If you enjoyed, please subscribe. Please like and share this with a friend. And I will see you guys next time.